Hey, it's Clint from the Doorway too, hanging out with Ben from Existence Dysphoria. First of all, thanks for doing this, man. Your record kind of came out of the middle of nowhere for me and kind of kicked me in the ass, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what we're all about. Those oral ass kick-ins, man.
cool, cool. So the first thing I wanted to kind of ask was, why an EP and not a full length?
Well, it just sort of came together that way. We'd had three songs that some of them we'd been playing for a few years. Track two we'd been playing for about 4 years, and just hadn't got round to really practicing it. And we put it all together, and we were like, shit, this is like 27 minutes long. And if it's like a punk album or a grindcore album, like 20 songs in 20 minutes is absolutely fine, but three songs that are 27 minutes, it's like, oh dude. So like I put together like an intro track to try and bump it up, but then again that was only like 32 minutes, I think the whole playtime is. So yeah, it just sort of came about that way, to be honest. It was all
Cool.
we had rehearsed, kind of thing.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, for a thrash record or a grindcore record, it's a full
Hmm.
length album. Yeah, no,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
But no, I think it's really great, the way it's set up with that kind of 2 minute intro, and then all the
Yeah.
songs are like 9, 10 minutes. And the thing that I love most about the EP is it mixes like old school kind of fuzzed out doom with that
Mm.
sludgy kind of element. And there's a couple of bands in particular that I kind of hear in this, and I kind of
Mm.
want to get your feedback if they're influences, if they're not, and I'm just hearing things because it's what I like. Uh, so the first one is, it reminds me a lot of like early Cathedral. It reminds me, especially in the guitar tones when it gets kind of fuzzed out and kind of
Mm.
trippy sounding. Uh,
Yeah.
the other two in general that it really kind of reminds me of is, fellow band from the UK, Iron Monkey. Uh,
Oh,
you,
yes.
you, you kind of
Legends.
vocally you remind me very much of that kind of crossover meets sludge kind of vibe that Iron Monkey did so well back then.
I mean, that's really good to hear, because yeah, I mean, they're a huge influence. I think that Johnny Morrow, the vocalist of Iron Monkey, is definitely a huge vocal inspiration for me. I always enjoyed it when, like you've got all those crushing and heavy guitars, and then someone who just sounds completely demented, like
Yeah.
gurgling over the top of it. I think for me that is the kind of vibe that sludge should be. For us, it was always not wanting to sound like any band in particular, but also making sure that things stayed nasty. And as an
Yeah.
aggressive, acerbic kind of smash your face forwards with sludge, but also what I love about Doom is that it just the sonic possibilities in it are just endless. It seems, you've got bands like, UFO Mammoth, who do these
Yeah.
crazy, what I call Pink Floyd on steroids, because it's just so expansive. But then also you've got your kind of I Hate Gods, who like would fit in a similar genre, but like it's just a lot more nasty and aggressive. So like pulling all that together, it's just like the music that we enjoy and wanted to hear and
Yeah.
wanted to play, and it just grew like that, really.
Cool. And then the last band I was going to talk about, talking about I Hate God and stuff like that, is a band from San Francisco called Newthgrush. You have a
Oh,
very
News
kind
Crush.
of Yeah, you have a very kind of punky noise edge to the EP as well too. And I think like Newthgrush was always great with mixing kind of punky hardcore with sludge. So
And yeah, I think there's a band also from the UK called Mastiff, if you've
yep,
heard of them. Yeah, wicked.
I'm actually signed to his record label,
Yeah, me
Trepanation, the
too,
bass
man.
players.
Me too.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my album came out in June on Trepanation. So very
Oh, what
cool.
what one was that?
The Slumbering.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, Dan's a great guy, man. Yeah,
He
I
is
put
awesome.
I put a solo project out on there called Quarantine,
Yeah.
that I made during the lockdowns. And yeah, I just approached him, and I sent him this, and he was at the time, he was wanting to master some stuff. He wanted to practice it, so I sent him this through. It's like, do you want to master this? He's like, yeah, I want to put it out as well. And Yeah, I did 2 albums for him, and the second one nearly drove me completely insane because I made it on sorry, a bit off topic. I made it on a 2006 Apple Mac on
Oh
GarageBand.
God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just like, waiting for that. The machine was so archaic that I couldn't even send an email off of it. So I had to
Jesus.
mix down the songs, put it on a flash drive, put it in my partner's, put it in her laptop, and then email it to my phone, and then listen to it and be like, oh shit, that little bit's not loud enough, and then reboot the old Mac.
Oh,
Yeah, it's ugly, ugly kind of sludge buzz oven and weed eater as
oh.
well. That just, for me, that music really speaks to me, and it's just so completely outrageous and aggressive, but also I find it really relatable to me. Like I
Yeah.
just feel those sounds, and I feel that it's honest somehow, Like I do enjoy, extreme, like death metal, black metal, all that sort of stuff, but not being religious in any kind of way. The kind of image of it, it doesn't resonate on a personal level with me. So what again, what I love about sludge is it's so expansive, and you can kind of just be honest and just be who you are. And I think that definitely is the reason why this kind of music has always been, for me. I
Cool.
remember seeing Electric Wizard play live. Must have been almost about 20, no, about 15 years ago, and just blew my mind. And I was just like, that's it, man. That's it. That's how you do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's funny you say about Electric Wizard because I'm from the New York area, and we used to
Yeah.
play like tons of shows there, and
Mm.
we used to play with Liz's old band 13 all the time,
Oh,
like at
cool.
different
Yeah.
shows. And I didn't know she had joined Electric Wizard because I'd been out of
Mm.
touch with her for a while. We go
Mm.
see Electric Wizard show, and there I see someone I had been playing shows with for a decade up on
Yeah.
stage, and I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit, you're an Electric Wizard now?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
cool. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. So I kind of want to talk about the songs in general,
Mm.
because I love how they're noisy and chaotic, but you let them breathe. Like
Mm.
you give them the space to become what they are. There are
Mm.
some really, and I know it's an odd term for sludge, but there's some really beautiful moments, like in the
Yeah.
tracks
Thanks.
as well too,
Yeah.
that mix with the ugliness. Was that all done on purpose? Like the layers, the way it was done for each one of those tracks?
Um. Yeah. I mean, the goal. I mean, the way that our music sort of panned out is it did get more expansive, and it just, yeah. I mean, again, it's I just circle back to like me saying about how sludge is honest and open, and I think that, with the darkness and the light, there's also, beauty in life in
Yeah.
general. And I just think that, mixing those two elements together make the harder bits sound harder, but also adds a bit of depth as well, because we never just wanted to be another doom band. We wanted to add, those layers of things. And who doesn't like, psyching out a little bit sometimes, and just blissing out. And yeah, so when we got into the studio, there were a few bits. We were recorded with Wayne from Bear Bites Horse, and he added a couple of tiny little sonic touches, as he called it, paprika, which just made it all a little bit more spacey and expansive. Like, for example, on the last track, Minus Negative, when we're building up the riff, there's one note that plays very quietly that he played on a keyboard, and he just said, "Oh, I think this needs this," and he pressed this, and if you listen carefully, it just literally holds that note throughout that entire
Mm.
last riff, even as it builds into a heavier bit and how it drops out at the end as well. And yeah, just little things like that just add to the kind of sonic palette of it all. And yeah, absolutely, I wanted to capture a variety of emotions, because that's what, I feel when I listen to this kind of music as well.
Cool. Well, talking about Minus Negative, that's actually my favorite track on the record, and I was
Oh,
going to
cool.
talk about that. I was going to
Mm.
talk about that in a minute, but we'll jump into that now because it's
Yeah.
a good stuff. Sorry, but I feel like if there was one song that I would give someone and say, okay, here's the band, here's what they sound like, Minus Negative is it. Would you
Mm-hmm.
feel the same way that it kind of has all the elements of the band in it?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, absolutely, it does. Yeah, there's some pretty killer riffs on that one, if I do say so myself. And yeah, absolutely. I know that's why it got the that's why we called the EP that, because it just yeah, as you say, completely encapsulates all the different elements that we have. It's groovy, but it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some epic movements, and then I can't seem to write a song without there being an epic finish in terms of like a riff. It's like, stop playing, gonna build this riff and build this riff and build this riff, and then it builds, and then that just seems to be the way it goes. But yeah, I was particularly pleased with that one. Again, that one came together through a lot of different little recordings I'd done at home. And I was listening through some of these things, and I was like, oh well, pop those things together, and then there you have it. But yeah, it's an absolute statement of intent, that one. It would have been the last song we wrote for that one. So yeah, I think also kind of coming into our own as a band, as a sort of more fully realized creative idea of what the band was, we definitely getting closer and closer to that. But we're not done yet. Like I'm always pushing to write more things that are more expansive, and marry even more of the light and the darkness sort of thing. And there's a few things in the pipeline now, and I don't think we have quite realized our full sound yet, but we're getting there. I would like to go for a kind of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds meets UFO
Oh.
Mammoth all eventually.
Oh man, yeah. If you're gonna do Nick Cave goth kind of dark rock kind of stuff, I will be all for it, my friend. I will be all
Yeah,
for it.
I love a bit of Nick
So
Cave.
yeah, same here, man. So I want to kind of talk about the tones of the band as well, because
Mm.
I think why this record is EP. I mean, dude, it's 30 minutes long. It's not short by any means.
No.
But I feel like the punchy bass and kind of the noisy, dirty, groovy guitars really work well with, and maybe your drummer will love this, maybe your drummer will hate this. I don't know. But I feel like he's the glue that holds it all together. So
Mm.
right when the chaos is about to happen, the drummer knows just when to be able to either go crazy or
Mm.
hold back a little bit to let those grooves happen. What's your thoughts on that?
No, 100%, man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, with Sludge Doom, obviously it's always going to be very fuzzed out guitars and very punchy bass. The bass tone came about really nicely. We got there was a few pedals in the studios that we've now adopted. The guitar sound is largely a pedal called a Fuzzvenger, made by a guy in Poland whose company's called Occult Pedals. Amazing pedals, definitely worth checking out. And I got this Fuzzvenger, which is obviously, as all overpriced fuzz pedals are now, based on the FZ2. But we ran my pedal, the Fuzzvenger, and we ran a Boss FZ2 through the same amp. And actually, we all agreed that the Fuzzvenger just had that kind of a kind of slightly crisper, more scooped, kind of metallic edge to it, which made it all sound a lot more aggressive. But yeah, in terms of the drummer, he's a very, very talented musician. He's a doctor in computer musicology.
Oh
So
wow.
he's Dr. Nick, incidentally. Hi, Dr. Nick. But he does that, and he's explained to me what that is, and I don't fucking understand it, to be honest with you. But his drumming's always been very nuanced, and he's always played to serve the song and never not to show off. It's
Yeah.
never, he never puts in fills for just the sake of like, oh, look at how fast I can do these fills, and he absolutely, as you say, is completely the glue that holds everything together. I remember our first ever gig, we played a kind of a weird story. We played a squat rave. So like they'd set up this like a rave in an abandoned building, and we were on at 4 a.m. in the morning, on a bill that was not doom and stone and stuff. So we played to a room full of very bemused and wasted people, which is great fun. But they were setting this thing up, and they were panicking because one of the guys from the band who were putting it on had forgotten his hi-hat stand. And, everyone's running around going, oh, shit, like, what can we do? We've got to get this. And I said to Nick, like, yeah, what are we going to do, man? And he just looked at me and he said, I don't care. I've played on worse kits than that. And I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, that makes me feel better. So, yeah, definitely no frills. Just, again, yeah, serving the songs. And, yeah, an excellent drummer and a great guy as well.
Cool. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is your vocals, because I think it's one of the standout moments on this record. And you tell me if you did this on purpose or not, because I hear it in every song, and I kind of feel like you wanted it this way, where you buried the vocals just enough to be kind of weird and hypnotic, but you can hear everything that's going on. Like, it's almost like this trippy, kind of noisy, sludged out kind of vocal thing. I would say it's tormented, but it's kind of like psychedelic at the same time. Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, that was probably more the weighing at Bear by its horse. Actually, that was more the producer's shout on it. We definitely wanted the cleaner stuff to be a bit more psychedelic, but yeah, I'm glad you used the word torture, because again, I'm not just going for kind of like death growls. I'm kind of again the human aspect of it. Like, I mean, I love Pig Destroyer's vocalist, JR from Pig Destroyer. Because his voice is so raw, but it's so kind of twisted and tormented as well. And I always enjoyed that it, you could hear him singing and be like, that's him from Pig Destroyer. You know it's got that. But in terms of the way it got mixed in, yeah, I mean, that was, to be honest, that was pretty much the producer. I'd envisioned something slightly more straight down the middle. But then when you put it all together as like like a sonic picture, like the kind of way that they kind of span out and kind of, as you say, just about legible in the mix and sounding psychedelic, really just fit the overall tone of the record. So yeah, like moderately intentional, but largely down to weighing at Bear by its horse. And it's something we definitely will incorporate going forwards as well.
Cool. So how did you hook up with Sludgelord? Like, that's kind of an interesting label to work with for you, because they typically, to me, are more of a kind of stoner edged label. They have a lot of sludgy stuff, but they are really groovy with a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, it definitely was on our radar. Again, going back to the recording experience, we recorded it with this guy, Wayne at Bareback's Horse, and he said, he said, like, basically, I'll give you a list of labels to send this out to, because I've recorded like half their bands, and if you tell them I've recorded it, they'll at least listen to it. Nice. So we sent it out to a few, and didn't hear anything back for a little while, and then we sort of gave Aaron a nudge, and he messaged. He was like, I've got a lot of bands on. I'd love to be able to release everything, but there's a lot going on at the moment. And then we gave him another nudge, and he came back to us and he said, yeah, like, this record like really grew on me. It really, like, after a few listens, I really dig it, and yeah, I want to put it out. And yeah, I think to quote him, I think he said, I thought it was time to release something fucking horrible again. So yeah, it grew. It meant a lot to us that he took the time to get to know it and listen to it, and then came back and said, this is wicked. Like, let's put this out.
Cool. Talk about the album cover for a minute, because it's one of the more interesting things I've seen in quite some time. How do you feel that it fits with the songs, and is there a theme going with the image as well with the lyrics?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a guy from Indonesia called Deepless Archived now. He did my stuff for the solo Trepanation record I put out a couple of years ago, and I just saw him on Instagram, and I really liked his style, and I contacted him, and he was very much. For my solo thing, I just said, like, listen to what I've got. Excuse me. Listen to what I've got and just build something yourself. Like, see what you think about it. And he was very quick, and he came back with it really quickly, and I was like, yeah, we'll definitely use this guy again, And So I sent him an early master of one of the songs, and then I sent him the lyrics as well. And I said, build something around that. Basically, I was like, songs are largely about kind of depression and drug abuse and the ever impending apocalypse that's going to come one way or the other, it seems. And he just kind of put that all together, and it's kind of, I like it. It's kind of dystopian, kind of nightmarish, and with the color scheme, he just said, I thought orange, and we were like, yeah. I can see that now. It's not one I would have thought, but yeah, I can see that. So yeah, just
Cool.
again, quite organic the way it all came about.
Nice. So live versus the studio. If I was to come see you perform versus listening to the record, what differences would I get?
Well, I'm a bit of a gobshite when in between songs. I see. I know a lot of bands that just be feedback, droning feedback in between, and that sort of suits the vibe. But I just can't help myself but talk some absolute bollocks in between the songs. To I don't know. It's just part of what we are. I mean, it needs to be loud, and I think it's a bit more direct, probably slightly less psychedelic, especially in the vocal delivery, because again, the vocals are a bit more raw when we play them live. But I mean, the essence of the band is there. Sometimes we throw in a couple of old songs. We've got a new one we're working on that we've aired out a couple of times as well. And yeah, it's very much it'd be more in your face as opposed to, especially in the vocal delivery, as opposed to more kind of ethereal as it comes across on the record. So more punky, I think I'd say.
Okay.
More punky, but still, thick and groovy.
Cool. So I guess the next thing I'm going to kind of ask is if you could go back now and do anything different on these 4 tracks, is there anything that you would change, or do you feel like this is just the moment in time it needed to be?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? Like, I think that listening back to it, I think we all went through phases of it, of listening to it and getting the initial masters back and saying, oh yeah, we'll tweak that. Overall, we're very pleased with our performance on it. Like those songs were long in the pipeline. I think the latest one, Minus Negative, we've been playing for a good, I think, 7 or 8 months before we got in the studio. So they were all ironed out in terms of how the song was going to be structured and how it was all going to go down. And listening back to it, I mean, I as you recording artists yourself, go through phases of listening to it, go, yeah, this is pretty good, and then, oh god, this is terrible, what the fuck were we thinking? And then, like, actually this is pretty good. And then after leaving it for a couple of months, and also getting it out to labels and showing it to a few friends and hearing it through their ears, I think we're all really pleased with the way it came out, to be honest. It sounds exactly where we needed to be as a band at the time, and exactly how we'd want to put ourselves across, so yeah, overall, really pleased.
Yeah, like I said, I was hoping you're gonna say I'm not gonna change a thing, because I think it's just it speaks to me. Next week I'm gonna be 50. I'm not a kid, all right? And like, it speaks to me in that old kind of late 90s, early 2000, like Bay Area, New York City kind of sludge scene. So like, I love the retro vibe, and then I love that you bring your heritage into it. What I mean by that is that you have that very UK doom sound, like like that, like it's almost like a mix of Peaceville Records mixed with like Cathedral and things like that. When you're recording music, is it just everything you love that you throw into it and you don't care at the end what it is, or are you very specific on when you record each individual track on what you want it to, the end result to be?
I mean, I think, yeah, again, the heritage comes into it. It's just the environment, again, it's just playing what we see and what we know. I mean, none of us are like from the country or anything. We're all from industrial, like parts of the UK. And, for us to make like, a black metal album about, you know, going and screaming in the forests would just be dishonest, you know. What you hear there is just completely honest, and that is just, again, we play what we see and we're influenced by our habitat. And, you know, I'm very proud of, you know, the UK's musical heritage in general. I just think it's astonishing that so much incredible music, like from the 60s all the way through to now, continues to be proliferated in the UK. And yeah, again, we just kind of we write what we believe in and we play what we believe in. And in terms of, you know, we're not you know, we definitely knew what we wanted it to sound like in a way, but we were also very happy to hear what Wayne would suggest for it to bring out the best in it, you know. He's not afraid to say this sounds shite. So like there were a few on the cleaner vocals. He said, this is fine, but I think we can try this. And then we tried that and it was like, yeah, actually, you're totally right, man. That was right. So I wouldn't say we were kind of complete sonic perfectionist in the way that we have a complete vision. That might become with it, you know, being quite a young band. We've only recorded a handful of times. But also, yeah, we're very happy to let people hear what they want and like to make their own interpretation on it and add their own things to it. Because again, that's how, for me, that's how you'd expand as a group and as a sound in general, you know?
Cool. So if I was to ask you, with the evolution of the band, for the next couple of songs that are coming, how are they different? How are they the same? Are we looking for more similar record? Is it going to be very different? Because you started talking about Nick Cave influences. So
yeah, I mean, no, it would definitely be along the same theme. When I write now, I write Existence Dysphoria now. That's what I do, you know, and basically trying to hit a kind of a balance between it being interesting, you know, with like there's a bit more of the cleaner vocals on the new stuff, but it's also got to be quite hypnotic and crushing and just messing around with time signatures, you know. So I writing a riff and like, yeah, that's pretty groovy, and like that, for me there has to be a certain level of simplicity and a groove, but then to that you can just throw in a slight curveball and it makes the whole thing a little bit more interesting and kind of, you know, makes you sit up and take notice. So I can be working on a groove, be like, yeah, that's pretty cool, but that's a bit basic, and then just whack a diminished power chord on the end of it and it's like, oh, there's an extra bar, that's good now. You know. So yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely along the same path, but just bigger, you know, just kind of get bigger and just emphasize all the elements that we currently have, but just make them more and just try to write the best music that we can put out there, really.
Cool. All right. So an odd question, and I ask this to a lot of people that I interview because I love to get the feedback on it. But let's say you're in a record store. Okay. I that's me. I love going, looking through records, looking through tapes. Like that's my thing. Let's say some kid comes up to you, doesn't know you're in the band, but brings your album to you and says, hey man, do you know anything about this band? What the hell do they sound like? How would you describe your band to that person?
Cool. I'd say just like, I mean, the basic element of the band is the core of it is the kind of nihilistic sludge. But I would, it's an interesting one. I mean, first of all, I'd say go buy it and I'll tell you. But I'd say, you know, I mean, I'd cite again our influences like UFO Mamu and, you know, the kind of heavier, sludgier, punky stuff. Just kind of unpleasant, but quite epic music. I think. I don't know. It's a tricky one to answer that.
No,
I've never thought of it in those terms.
That's fair, man. That's fair. That's why I ask it. Is there anything that you would never add into your music? Is there something that's a absolute no? Like, would you say, just please don't ever even think about bringing that into this?
I mean, I'll probably stay away from a Fred Durst style white guy rapping. I think I'll probably leave that out of it. But, you know, not outwardly. You know, I think if something fits, again, it's got to fit the whole theme and I wouldn't say necessarily image, but kind of aesthetics of the music itself. I mean, again, rapping, no, I would not be adverse to whacking in some pretty mean kind of synth stuff over the top,
Yeah.
kind of a heavily distorted synth, and that definitely adds something. Again, no rapping, probably no crooners. I completely understand the appeal of the music like the crooners from like the 50s, Sinatra and
Yeah.
stuff. But personally, I just can't listen to it. But it's fine. I'm not the target audience for it. It's fine. And I get that people like it. I don't mind that. I just can't bear to hear that kind of thing. However, if you kind of threw it in with some heavy ass guitars, maybe that would work quite well now that I'm thinking about it. So again, I'd be up for collaborating with different vocalists. And I think Sludge is such an amazing scene now. There's just so many bands adding their own touches to things and things that you wouldn't have thought of. And just making it just such a really interesting kind of music. I don't know if you checked out the new Gravelines album, which came
I
out.
have.
Whoa, fuck me, that is some serious stuff right there. They were a massive influence on us when we were starting out, because the idea that you could put the kind of crooning vocals and like sort of more delicate openers, and then the overall eruption and the heft of the music is something that really inspired me initially for the band, and it's something that we've kept, but again, we're just adding our own touches to it. So I wouldn't say outwardly there's anything we'd be completely against, because I think that experimenting with things and mixing things is how music evolves and progresses forwards, and I think that's a hugely important thing.
Cool. So just a couple more questions and then I'll let you go on your weekend. But the next thing I kind of wanted to ask was, is there anybody that you would love to collaborate with? Is there like one artist, one band you'd like to say like, hey, I would, and it could be something that's polar opposite to what you do. I'm kind of interested in that.
Well, I mean, I think the standard answer would be Electric Wizard, but I don't think any of us would make it out of the studio alive after just hanging out with those guys for a few hours. But I mean, they're already doing their own thing. I absolutely love Lingua Ignota. I think she is. I think it's some of the heaviest music I've ever heard, and there isn't even a guitar in sight on the last album.
Right.
I think there's one drum hit throughout the whole thing, and it's just so heavy. I think it would be if we were going to collaborate with someone, it would definitely be bringing an element that we don't currently have to add something different to the music, and like I think her voice is incredible. I think what she does, the way she captures her emotion through such simple simple things, I think is great. And it's always for me, my money, the best collaborations are bands that bring different things to each other. Like the Sun and Boris collaboration. Obviously it's an absolute classic. But the Sinking Bell off that with that kind of ghostly vocal over the top, that is probably, if we were going to collaborate, something I would like to incorporate. Some female vocals or some slightly softer vocals to again just emphasize the quieter moments and make the heavier moments stand out. So yeah, if we were going to collaborate, it would want to be someone who would bring something different. I'd quite like to work with John Lydon, because I love his voice as well, But so it would definitely be something different.
That's great. Yeah, you have a punk aesthetic, so it definitely would work on something like that. I was very much thinking of someone like Jarbo from the Swans, like would be very interesting with you guys, because she did a collaboration with Neurosis that I think just blew me away. So like, very cool. So the last question I'm going to ask you, well, actually, it's not even a question. I'm gonna turn the mic over to you and say, talk about what's coming up. Any live shows, talk about what's coming up with the band, anything that's happening with you. Let the folks know about what's going on with you and the band.
Yeah, I mean, so we're gonna be there's gonna be a little bit of a personnel change, we believe, just through sort of life getting in the way. There's no animosity between any of us, but we've got a couple of shows in the pipeline towards the end of the year. We will continue to write the gnarliest and most interesting shit that we can possibly do. Right now, there's no concrete plans, but we are not going anywhere. We need this. I need this to stop me going completely insane in the general world, you know? So, yeah, you continue more of the same, but better and bigger, basically.
Nice. All right. Well, this is Clint from The Doorway 2, hanging out with Ben from Existence Dysphoria. We really do appreciate this, man. Love the record. If you ever do come to the U.S., let me know. I would love to hang out, have a beer, and kind of watch the show with you, man.
Yeah.
But other than that, man, keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to hear more. And thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much, man. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And again, thanks for checking out our record. And to anyone else out there who's listening, you know, if you listen to the record, thanks so much for checking it out, because it literally means the absolute world to all of us. So, yeah, thanks to you, Cliff, and thanks to anyone out there listening.
You have a good one.
Cheers, man. See you.